Hello all. So today will be the first topic of chapter 4, that is Introduction to Repetition Structures. So we are going to talk about loops basically. So repetition structure is nothing but that will make the computer repeat included code as necessary. So if you want the code to be repeated let's say 5 times, the code will be repeated for 5 times. So this will basically this process has the advantage of to reduce the duplication of the code. So for example, let's take the turtle graphics example that you have worked in the previous chapter. Towards the end, so you were basically repeating the same 3 or 4 statements over and over again till you have make the square or something like that. So instead of repeating the statements, you could just use a repetition structure by using a loop. So disadvantages of duplicating a code is it makes the program large unnecessarily, and it's time consuming as well because we'll have to type the statements again and again. And they let's say you have a mistake in a variable name, or let's say you have a mistake in any word that you are using in your program. If you are repeating that throughout the entire 100 lines of code, and if you are making that change, then you'll have to go by every line and then change that particular word. So if you are using the repetition structure, you could just avoid that by just changing at one location. So one approach would be to write the code and calculate the salesperson's commission, and then repeat the code for each salesperson. So here, let's take the example towards the left, that is this snapshot here. So here we have the sales and the commission rate, which we are getting from the user. And then you are basically calculating the commission, which is sales times commission rate. So you're printing the commission for, let's say this is the first person's information. Next, you are let's say you want to calculate the same thing for the next person within the same program. Then you are basically copying the statements and then pasting them again to calculate for the second set of person. Next becomes the third person, next is the fourth person, and so on and so forth. So for each and every person, you'll have to just copy and paste the set of lines of code. So instead of doing this, we could just eliminate the repetition by or the duplication of the code by using a repetition structure. So we have already seen the disadvantages of using the previous approach, which is basically duplication of the code. So the solution is to create a repetition structure, otherwise called as a loop. It is called as a loop because it will continuously execute in a loop till you ask it to stop. So there are certain methods on how to make the loop stop. So we'll see those as well. So when you're talking about repetition structures, there are basically 2 types of repetition structures. One of them is condition controlled loop, and the other is count control loop. So as the name suggests, the control, which is the start and stop of the loop, is basically controlled by the condition. So if the condition is true, only then it will process or it will execute the statements which are under that condition. Otherwise, the statements will not be executed. So one good example is while loop in Python. Same thing when it goes for count control loop. Let's say you want to repeat a set of statements for a particular number of times. So for example, let's take the example of pentagon. Pentagon has 5 sides, right? So let's say you are drawing a pentagon. So you will have to repeat the maybe 2 to 3 statements for 5 times because pentagon has 5 sides. So when you know the total number of the times of repetition of the code, then you can just specify it by using the count control loops. So count control loop basically repeats for a specific number of times. Condition control loop will execute the first check the condition, and if the condition is true or false, depending upon the condition, it will execute. It will execute only if the condition is false. So with that, we are going to start while loop. So while condition is true, then it will execute. There are 2 parts